Most people dream about building a successful business. What if success isn't about how big your business is, but about how valuable it becomes without you in it? Because real brand value isn't built at the exit, it's built in the decisions that you create years before. Today, Phillip Di Bella is going to share what it actually takes to build a brand that lasts and one that you can eventually sell.
You learn more from people that do the wrong thing. Get comfortable with your worst case scenario.
I think what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
And I'm also a big believer that if you don't do the hard yards, you don't get the learnings.
This is a really honest conversation about what it actually takes to build a business that lasts. Today, I'm joined by Phillip Di Bella, entrepreneur, founder of Di Bella Coffee and the Coffee Commune, and one of Australia's most recognisable coffee brands. Phillip's built a brand a lot of people recognise, but what's more interesting is how he's done it. The long-term thinking, the hard calls, and the focus on building something that works beyond just him. Okay, cool. So let's start at the beginning. What made you want to start Di Bella Coffee? How did that all come into play?
Yeah, look, the short version is very simple. I was working for a coffee shop that produced its own coffee. I was at university, didn't know if I wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant, went on to do marketing, fell in love with marketing and HR, strategic HR, so not HR as we know it today. Very strategic HR, getting performance out of people, organizational structures and designs, a lot of strategy stuff. But I really fell in love with the marketing component of stuff. And I was working in a coffee shop that manufactured its own coffee. And I started to build assignments, and I used it as a test case to when I was doing the marketing school to actually build a wholesale business for them. And as I built that wholesale business, it got momentum, and then I was offered a full-time job, and I stayed there. Of course, as naturally grow, a lot of things were doing right, a lot of things were getting done wrong. Let's just be polite and say the owner was a very interesting character. So I kept a diary all the time. Key takeaway for listeners is, when you're in a position of learning, you learn more from people that do the wrong thing. So I was keeping a diary that if the company was mine, what would I do different? I also, in that diary, put what was working really well, right? So, this is 1993 right through to 2002. I'm keeping this diary, I'm working, I'm learning, I'm getting to meet a lot of people in the industry, and then we get to, a time where I either get a profit share or I move on, which another key takeaway for listeners is if you've got staff that are good enough to own their own business, give them a reason not to. And combine those two things together, that I had that opportunity. I wanted to do things differently. I wasn't being given an opportunity to own a share of that business. Then the decision came 2002 to start my own company. So just before Easter 2002, I launched Di Bella Coffee. I had an apartment paid off at the time. Another key takeaway for listeners is get comfortable with your worst case scenario. I didn't want to go and sell that apartment to fund a business, so it wasn't all in. And you'll find most entrepreneurs aren't all in; they're very measured, apart from what you hear out there. And so I bootstrapped it with $5,000. I used somebody else's roaster. I was packing coffee out of my garage, and I went out pounding the pavement, so to speak, and knocked on cafes' doors, and the Di Bella Coffee started. In 2002, great journey, a lot of learnings, but it came off the back of a few key elements. And that was one, looking at a business that had so much potential, but just didn't want to change. And if you're not owning it, you can't control it. And then if you've got staff good enough to own their own business, you've got to give them a reason not to. And you combine those two, that's how Di Bella Coffee was born.
Yeah, wow. So when you sold your apartment, what were you feeling in that moment? Because that's quite, like you said, going into being an entrepreneur and starting your own business, it can be a very scary journey, and you have to sacrifice a lot in your life, to get to where you want to be. So how did that feel?
Yeah, look, of course, everything's scary. But what I did was when I sold the apartment, I said, well, I don't want to waste it on chance. Yep. So I sold the apartment and bought 82 Abbotsford Road, which I still own. Yeah. So I bought a commercial property with it. So that I thought, worst case scenario is if the business doesn't work, I'm still got a commercial property. Yeah. So it was a very structured, very measured strategic move. It wasn't an all-in, move, which I say to people. It wasn't funded by anybody else, which a lot of entrepreneurs these days say, hey, I've got a great idea and somebody else should invest in it. Yeah. Well, should they? What's the return going to be for them? And I'm also a big believer that if you don't do the hard yards, you don't get the learnings. So there's a lot of people out there that shortcut, want to shortcut. They want to speed things up. And I say, if it was going to be easy in 2002 to say 2005, then I would never have achieved the success we did over the next 10 years. Yeah. It's a bit like building a building, and I use this analogy a lot. when somebody drives past a development site for 1 to 2 years, all they see is this hoarding. They see this barricade, and everyone's thinking, what's going on there? What's going on? I can't see any movement. Well, there's lots of movement, it's just you can't see it. The movement is under the ground. People are down there digging, putting foundations in, putting concrete basements, steel work. They're prepping to what's going to come out of the ground. And so my prep work started in 1993 when I started, working for a cafe that roasted coffee. And so that was the major work for me. And then obviously 2002, call it coming out of the ground. By the time we got 2005, the building started to go quickly. By the time we got to 2010, it was flying floor by floor. And it's no different to what we see in a development site. People then turn around and go, that's gone up quickly.
It's quick.
Well, it can't go up quick if the foundations aren't there.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of listeners need to understand. When they look at a successful business or a successful person, and whatever success is to them, there's a lot of groundwork that's gone into it. There's a lot of foundation work. And that's my advice to budding entrepreneurs that are in their teens or in their 20s, or even if you're starting in your 30s or 40s. You've got to have the foundation work. You've got to really make sure you've done the hard work at the beginning, because if it's easy at the beginning, it's going to be very hard at the end. And I haven't found a story yet where somebody's found it easy all the way.
No.
If it starts easy, it gets harder later. If it starts hard, it normally gets a lot easier.
Yeah. Wow. So in the start, in that period, was there something that you had to sacrifice? Like mainly, I guess?
Yeah, look, when I started, I was 26. I was fit and healthy. So one of the things I sacrificed over the next 15 years was my weight, my health. I ended up putting on 70 kilos, which is a lot more than what you weigh. And you put that on slowly because you're not training, you're not eating. Well, for me, I was always training. I mean, I had a fight at 167 kilos, because I love boxing. But I wasn't eating breakfast, I wasn't eating lunch, I was eating late at night, especially when you start to travel for work. So sacrifice was health. My blood pressure was running at about 170 over 110, which is crazy. Doctors like, hey, you need to really slow this down. So health was one. The other one was time, right? Like, we had I got married in 2003. We had children in 2008 and 2010, and by then I was traveling 3 weeks a month. So you're sacrificing time with family, you're sacrificing time with kids, you're not watching them grow up. There's a lot of different stuff, and it is what it is, right? Like, would you do it any different? Well, if you had a magic wand, you'd do it differently, but nothing comes without sacrifice. And it's a crucial word, right? It's something I talk about now. If I had to do it different, I'd be a lot more aware, knowing what I know now, that balance doesn't exist. You've got to chase work-life harmony. And work-life harmony is, everyone's life is built into personal, professional, and family. And you need to know where you want to be personally, professionally, and family, and you need to document those outcomes. And then what you need to do is you need to build the plan on how you're going to give each one some attention. You can't give all three the same attention at once. It's not possible. But if you're building a business right now, then that's going to need a lot of your attention, but don't neglect the other two, which is what I did for a long time. You've still got to give the other two areas of your life some attention.
I think this is where people really struggle, because they get locked in on that, and I need to make it, I need to get there, I need to be here in a year's time, and then they forget about spending time with their family or their loved ones, their partners.
And you go, at what cost, right? At what cost? There's no use. Look at Steve Jobs. I mean, his famous last words, which you can research, and he talks about, well, I'm here, I've got all the money in the world, but I don't have my health. I don't have. So one of the things I talk about now in a triangle is, the key to success, and I call it the success triangle, is at the top is health, and it's non-negotiable. You're either healthy or you're not healthy. And if you're not healthy, you need to get healthy. And that was one of the catalysts of why I sold the company, was to get my health back in order. And then you've got time and money down the other apexes. And the time and money is to have enough to do what you want when you want. That to me is what matters. Is, do I have enough money and do I have enough time to do what I want when I want? Not how much money does somebody else have, not what car do they drive, do they own a plane, are they a billionaire? Who cares? Who cares? Do you have enough time and do you have enough money to do what you want when you want? And do you have your health? And if you can answer yes to all three, then you're as successful as it can get. And that's something that really, I think a lot of people lose sight of. They'll measure success in things, they'll measure success in money, they'll measure success in possessions. I don't see a removalist truck following a hearse to a funeral. And we've all been to funerals, unfortunately, but there's no one's taking anything with them. So I think for the mindset shift has to be, I need to be healthy,
Yeah.
And I need to have the time and the money to do what I want when I want. And you don't know the answer to that unless you start mapping out your outcomes, unless you start mapping out your purpose, your why, your goals. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, where am I now in, say, February? And where do you want to be in December 2026? So for people listening, you know, sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, you know, get 3 different pieces of paper, write down personal. What are 2 to 4 or 5 things that are measurable that you want to achieve in December 2026? Visualize it. Once you've got it documented, build a plan around it. Do the same thing in business. Do the same thing around your family and circle of friends, and have those plans and keep them at the forefront of your mind. You know, it's something I've done now for over 15 years. It's something I do with my kids that are now 18 and 16. You know, and it's something I do with my team. I make sure that I'm doing this with my team members, saying, guys, where do you want to be personally? Where do you want to be from a family and friendship point of view? And where do you want to be professional? It shows an interest. It makes them aware of where they are, where they want to be. It helps them build their own plan. You know, and I can't underestimate the power of that simple process. You know, because that makes up our lives. You know, there's no difference of why you want to build a beautiful podcast and why you want to tell people stories, and when you've got an outcome you want to work towards, and then you reverse engineer it. No difference to when people want to open a coffee shop and I say, why? What's your purpose? What's your why? What's your point of difference? What are you going to do different to the other 16,000 people in the same state? You know, like, so it's a philosophy that is undervalued. People talk about goals, but then when I look at people's goals, they're just work related. And I go, where's your personal goals here? You know, do you want to learn a new language? Do you want to walk the Himalayas? Do you want to lose weight? Where's the you in this picture? Because that's something that when we come back to sacrifices, that's what I've missed. I would have done different. Is I would have gone, I've still got to do what I've got to do, but I need to be more conscious of my health. I've got to be more conscious of my family time.
It's funny when you say about the health side of stuff, because this year I've actually implemented being more intentional this year, and one of those is going to the gym. So it's, you know, every single day I have a trainer that, you know, helps me get there, because I was the same at the end of 2024. I had just finished uni, and in that period I was, you know, working, doing Adonis, I was working another job, and then I was doing uni full time on top of that.
Full on schedule.
So I was just eating crap. I was just eating KFC here and there just because it's quick, it's convenient. I was, you know, staying up, and quickly I put on 10 kilos, and it's not like you just
You
wake
don't
up
see it, do you?
No, you don't. It just gradually keeps happening, and then one day you go, holy
who's
crap,
that person?
this isn't me.
And it's not even the weight, you know, it's the internals. You
Yeah.
know, it's like my doctor, which was a catalyst, that he's hilarious and he's got no bedside manners, but he's very talented. And he's like, you're the fittest fat fuck I know, now lose weight. And it was just like, because he goes, one day you're just going to die. And it was just like, what? He goes, you know, I was 40 at the time. And he goes, you're just going to die, mate. He goes, I don't give a shit how fit you are and, you know, and how much money you're making and how business is. He goes, but you're not going to be here. He goes, because your body's just going to give up. It's not going to give you any warning signs because you're just go, 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 go. And we need those people in our lives. We need the people in our lives that sort of taser us and give us a shockwave. And, you know, because that's the thing too that I've said to people, just because you're thin or just because you're overweight doesn't mean you're not healthy. Healthy is different to different people, right? And there's thin people that drink too much or they take drugs or they do whatever. You need to identify, you know, what healthy actually means, and that's healthy lifestyle, and that's obviously being able to move, mobility, stuff like that, right? But you're right, it doesn't take much to, you know, like people said, how did you put on 70 kilos? Well, let's say I put on 200 grams a week over 10 years. And all of a sudden it just creeps on. And because you're looking at yourself every day, you don't notice it.
No, you don't.
You know? And it's even now the opposite. I look at myself now and go, who the hell's that? Because for so long you're used to seeing yourself overweight.
See yourself in a different light.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did it start to click that systems mattered more than how hard you worked in your business?
As you grow and you're experiencing double-digit growth and then triple-digit growth, you know, and you start to go, holy shit, I've never run a business before that's just growing like this. But the key to it was to always keep the eye on the outcome. And for me, the outcome from a customer point was, you know, helping cafe owners make money. That's what we did. So everything came back to, are we helping a cafe owner make money? Are we helping a cafe owner with their training, with their marketing, with their legals, with their expansion, with their sales, whatever it is? But as we grew and more teams members come on and more customers come on, you needed the systems and processes that would help build. The key word that a lot of people don't talk about is efficiency.
Yeah.
Because most people grow, and if you don't put systems in place, you become inefficient. You become inefficient. And I did with myself, right? Like that's how my weight became inefficient.
Yeah.
But if you don't put the system and process and discipline, and the two key words that you now hear people talking about, and I've been talking about this for years, discipline and consistency.
Yeah.
If people say, give me some, and of course you need resilience. Of course you need those.
Yeah.
But discipline and consistency are
Yeah.
two magic ingredients. They're the carrot to the carrot cake. If you don't have it, you can't have a carrot cake without carrots, right? If you don't have discipline and consistency, you will not be successful. They are must-haves. They're non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And so as you grow, as you expand, you need to have that discipline and consistency in place. And the best way to do that is systems, diaries, automatic bring-ups. How do I simplify my reporting or my team's reporting?
Yeah.
How do I communicate to everybody? Because now I can't just turn up and talk to you. Do I do vlogs by sending? Now you've got a lot more tools available now than what we had back in 2010, 2015.
Yeah.
But use the resources around you to become efficient. Use the resources around you to become productive. Use the resources around you to build those systems and processes, but be disciplined and consistent. It really is two secret ingredients that are not talked about enough, that people need to understand. If you look at any successful person, they're going to be disciplined and they're going to be consistent. And if they're not successful, like I wasn't successful with my weight, I was terrible. I lacked discipline and consistency. I wasn't eating breakfast, lunch, dinner. I wasn't consistent in how I ate. Some days I wouldn't even eat. I'd drink 3 liters of water a day, which kept me healthy. I'd drink 4 to 5 espressos a day, which kept the adrenaline going, but also kept the cortisol levels high, which means you're not losing weight. Doesn't matter how little you eat if you've got high cortisol. So, it's stuff I know now because I've looked back and I like reflecting and going, what's the message in this and how do I learn? But when you're talking about systems, processes, you have to be disciplined and consistent. And as you grow and you become one removed from the front line, you need to make sure that you're empowering the right people, that are coming on board.
And how did you make that shift from, you doing everything to start to lead a team and handing things off to them?
It was very hands-on process, right? So I always hired on attitude, not skill.
Yeah.
I found that when we hired on skill, people would come with an attitude and the wrong attitude. We're lucky enough to be in an industry where you can hire somebody with a great attitude that is, that has got energy, that is passionate, that is dedicated, that is loyal. You can teach any skill to that person.
Yep.
But if you brought somebody in that was highly skillful, they normally came with an attitude. And that attitude was about them, not about delivering excellence to your customers and all the rest of it. So for me, a key thing with people and bring on the right person with the right attitude, the right values, somebody that knows where they are now, where they want to be in 12 months, somebody that's self-motivated, self-driven, somebody that is got a yes if mentality, not a no because. So the optimist, not the pessimist. And bring somebody on that cares. And the best way to do that is take them out for lunch and see how they treat the weight staff.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 20 years in business. Take somebody out for lunch and just see how they treat people. Do they shake people's hands? Do they look at them in the eye? Do they engage with them? Do they pause, say thank you? Or do they treat them like they're the hired help? Or do they treat them and brush them away like they're subservient? It tells you a lot about people when you go out to dinner or lunch or, even out for coffee, right? And you see how people treat people. And you go, okay, well, that doesn't align with my values, or that does align with my values. And that to me is a big one. So right people, right attitude, right seat of the bus, right skill set, but they've got to believe and they've got to be dedicated. But the key ingredient, apart from your discipline and your consistency, is their mindset. Is their mindset yes, if, which is optimistic, or is it always that negative person? Because that's what you find in toxic workplaces, people that are always saying no.
And it infects the workplace as well and everybody in the workplace. And then, you just hate coming to work, which is not what you want.
It's not the energy you want, right?
No.
And this is something I learned the other day is how when we walk into a room, your pulse can actually emit up to 6 to 8 feet away your energy. So if you walk in stressed and that's why people go, oh, that person's highly strung right now.
Yeah.
And they go, how do you know that? Well, you don't even know, but that's what happens. Your body's emitting that energy. So if I walk in the room vibrant, let's go, you'll find the room lifts, right? If you walk in sour as anything, and that's why, Bon Jovi wrote the song Misery Loves Company. That's what happens is people normally hang around miserable people become miserable. Those that hang around energetic people, and now it's actually scientifically proven that part of that is because our bodies actually send out that frequency. Up to 6 to 8 feet
Interesting.
away, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. One thing that my dad used to tell me when we were growing up is you become the 5 closest people you hang around.
Yeah.
Which is also
Same sort of similar thing, right?
the same as that.
Because what nationality your family from?
Scottish.
Scottish, yeah. And again, you start to see, because that's about community. It's about, great communicators, and what are people lacking today is meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
How do you, if you're going to engage with somebody, engage with them. If you don't want to engage with them, don't engage with them, but don't be rude about it.
Yeah.
If you're not in the mood to go out, don't go out. If you're not in the mood to go to work, don't go to work. I say to my team, if you're not in the mood to turn up, don't turn up. I'd rather you stay home than come here and make everybody miserable.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're staying home all the time, we don't need you.
Yeah.
So, so it self-selects. Like people said, over the years, how many people have you fired? I've never fired a person in my life.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
I just have the chat with them. The chat is, you don't look happy. You don't want to be here.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be here, I don't want you to be here.
Yeah.
I want you to go and fly. Go become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't bring your misery here. And if we're making you miserable, we don't want that. And you have that let's call career chat with somebody, and they'll either step up or they'll step out. But the key is to do it early so they don't become toxic.
Yeah.
And that was another key ingredient. As you grow, I started in 2002 with just me. By the time I exited in 2017, we had 140 staff.
Wow.
So that's a lot of growth quickly
Yeah.
with people. And I went round to every state and would meet every new customer, but I'd be in the car with my business development managers, and I'd be coaching them and talking to them as we're going around to visit prospective clients, new clients, and they saw that I was hands-on. So I would hands-on train my team so that they knew my vision, they knew my values, they knew what I was passionate about. They got to spend time with me. I got to spend time with them. I got to ask them questions. They got to ask me questions. I take an interest in their family. What do they want to achieve personally? All these sorts of things, because you are building a family, you're building a community.
Yeah.
And that is important to, not just growth and fast tracking growth, but that's important to having an amazing workplace. Because let's face it, if your people aren't happy, how are they going to look after your customers?
Yeah.
They're not, right?
No.
And so the key is that they've got to be happy so that they look after your customers. And without a customer, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot
You're saying a lot of good stuff right now. I'm loving it. Yeah. Okay. So you've built both a business and a brand.
Yes.
How do you personally define the difference between those?
Yeah.
Between the business and the
I
brand?
love the question, right? So business is your profit and loss, your cash flow and your balance sheet. That's your business.
Yep.
Right? Your business, that's what it is, right? Your business is why you exist, what you do, how you do it. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yep.
Right? So when, let's talk about a handbag, or let's talk about a handbag, right? You've got all different types of handbag, but the function of a handbag is the same, to carry things with easily. That's the function of a handbag. Now, why does somebody go and buy Hermes? Why does somebody go a Louis Vuitton? Or why does somebody just buy a basic one from Kmart? Or they serve the same purpose and the function, right? That's a business. A brand is how it emotionally connects with you.
Yeah.
So why does somebody go and spend top dollar on a Hermes, or next level down a Louis Vuitton, or next level down a basic bag from a supermarket or a department store? That's what brand is.
Yep.
The brand is what emotionally connects you to choose something over something else. And sometimes it could be cheaper, not more expensive. What a business is the function it fills.
Yeah.
And that's something that we did at Di Bella Coffee and now at the Coffee Commune so well. 2,000 coffee companies were supplying coffee. That's a business.
Yep.
I built a brand. The Di Bella brand was, it's not just a bag of beans. Di Bella Coffee brand was, we help cafe owners make money. That's what set us apart. So how do we then go from 0 to 11% market share with 2,000 competitors? We built a brand. And of course, the business has to support the brand.
Yeah.
So there's no use building a brand that says, we're not just a bag of beans. We're a coffee company of choice. Coffee worth coming back for. That's all brand. If the business side of it doesn't back that up. So the business side of it had the systems and the processes and the whats and the whys, such as we got all our coffee direct from farmers. We manufactured fresh and delivered in store weekly. We weren't in supermarket shelves. We were, roast to order. The business component backed up what the brand stood for.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of businesses that'll build a good brand, but then the business component doesn't support the brand, or vice versa. They'll build a good business, but they can't scale it because they haven't built a brand.
Yeah.
So the key takeaway for listeners on that is you have to have both.
Yep.
You have to have a brand. Brand is what people say when you're not in a room. That goes for you personally. That goes for me personally.
Yeah.
If I walk out of here and you go, geez, what an asshole, then that's my brand because that's what you think of me.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what I think of me,
No.
right? That it's what you think of me or what you so personal brand, business brand's no different.
No.
What is somebody saying about your brand when you're not in the room?
Yeah.
And then the business side of it is all of the why you exist, what you do, how you do it, right? And both have to align.
Yeah.
You can't make a brand promise and then not support it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see a lot of businesses do that, you know.
Yeah. Over promising and under delivering.
Correct. So the promise is the brand led, so to speak, and then the delivering is the business.
Yeah. And how does your reputation through your brand start to show up in ways and positively affect your business?
Yeah, totally. Because, you know, with me, people will say, Phil responds immediately, right?
I can back that up because you definitely did.
Yeah, the emails, bang, straight away. Text straight away. If I'm not responding, I'm in a meeting or, you know, or I'm on a podcast or I'm on a flight. Even now with Wi-Fi, you can, you know, you never switch off. But that's my brand, right? It feels efficient. He's responsive. He's respectful. I was going to be late. I've got my executive manager to let you know Phil's running late. That's respect. So I have a brand. To me, what is important is that people say Phil's authentic. He's respectful. He's efficient. You know, that's my brand. So, you know, he's passionate. These are the things that I want to be passionate. I want to be inspiring. I want to have impact. You know, so I live those brand values, you know, but then the business of me has to be able to support that. So I have to have the tools in place to be able to do that. I have to have the follow through to do that, all the rest of it. But when you find somebody that cares about their personal brand, the commonality, not always, is that they have a great business brand and they attract good people to that brand because we all want that positive energy. We all want to work with people that, you know, so if people will often say, when I started working with Phillip, I wasn't as efficient. I used to keep my office messy. Without knowing it, 6 months later, I look back and I go, oh shit, my office is so neat and tidy. Why? Well, because I see Phillip's office. He's the busiest guy in the organisation and everything's spotless. He responds to emails straight away. He responds to phone calls straight away. Why can't we do that? He's the one with the most responsibility. He's got so many moving parts across different things, chairs, boards, does this, does that. But yet he is able, and I still take 20 weeks a year off, right? And they're like, that's the importance of a personal brand, but then backing it up with the business and the systems that you need. So I've got the systems in place that allow me to still carry through my brand. And that's important. Because a lot of people, what happens is they'll start a business, they're really good, they're efficient, then they get busy and then you'll go, oh, geez, that person's changed. I think one of the key things is to not try and change your personality, change who you are as we go through the school of life. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's going to be bad because we all have shit times too. You know, and I think that to me is the key is how well we come out the end through the good times and particularly the bad times.
Interesting, yeah.
Got you thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to building trust for your business, obviously that is backed up by your brand, by your business values, by everything. What did that kind of give you in a marketing sense? Or did that give you leverage to, you know, help business grow?
I love the question. Trust is likability. And likability is trust.
Yep.
You know, and I've done a lot of work over the years with politicians. There's no secret about it. And I say to them, if they don't like you, they won't vote for you. Well, what are you talking about? And I said, they don't like you, they won't vote for you because they won't trust you. If they don't like you, they don't trust you. If they don't trust you, they don't like you. So which one do you want first? Do you want to be liked? Because if you're liked, they'll trust you. And if they trust you, they'll like you. And you need both for them to choose you to vote for, or you need both to get them to choose your product or service. You know, we all want to deal with people that we trust and like. Right? If somebody says, hey, interview this person for your podcast, but they're an idiot and they're not trustworthy, they're going to the bottom of the pile, right? It's the people that you like and you trust that you want to talk to. You know, that's normal behavior. That's how we do business. The business, and I use politics because it's a great example. The business of politics is no different to a business of coffee. I've got to get a person to buy my coffee. I've got to get a person to vote for me. How do I get a person to vote for buy my coffee is get them to trust the brand, get them to trust our product, get them to trust the person selling it, get them to trust, or get them to like our coffee, get them to like the person. Why? Because they like them, they'll trust it. If they trust it, they like it. What do politicians do? They lose people's likability, which means they lose their trust. Or they lose their trust, they lose their likability. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, the penny drops, and they go, I didn't look at it like that.
Yeah.
You know, and in business, all we're doing is we're matching a person to a product or service.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
Mm.
But when I say that's all we're doing, the key element is emotional engagement.
Yeah.
You know, how do I get somebody to choose my coffee over 2,000 brands? I've got to emotionally engage.
Mm.
The key to emotional engagement is likability and trustability.
Yeah.
If they like me and trust me, they're going to be likely to engage with me.
Mm.
If they don't like me and trust me, they won't. And people go, well, it's not about likability. Well, it is.
It is.
They don't have to like me as a person.
Mm.
They've got to like what I stand for. They've got to
Yeah.
like what I believe in. They've got to like what the values of my organization are or what my people are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key one. And that was my big one on how I employed people, likability and trustability. You know, and I'd say to people, tell me what I'm going to like about you.
Mm.
Tell me what I'm going to hate about you.
Mm.
And there's the second part is the trust part. Am I trusting you're telling me the truth right now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Am I trusting that you're going to say, hey, I got a lot of energy and this is what I do. I'm an efficient, but hey, I'm going to be a ball breaker because if you're not returning my calls, I'm going to be on the phone.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, I can deal with that. I actually like that.
Yeah.
You know, so and I'm trusting you because you told me straight away what the problem was.
Yeah.
You know, or you say to me, hey, look, I really want this job, but in 3 months' time, I've got to take a month off because I've committed to an overseas holiday. Great. There's trustability straight away.
Yeah.
Not you start and then you go, oh, I need a month off now.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me this before?
Yeah.
Already you've broken trust.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, the short answer, there's a lot of little things that help you build or break trust pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I always talk about great conversations are in the key of questions. So asking questions of people and saying, hey, what is it that you really like? Or what do you really not like? Or what am I going to like about you?
Yeah.
What am I not going to like about you? You know, and those questions will bring out data. From that data, you analyze the data and then you can work with it and make your decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. So as the business grew, how did you decide what was non-negotiable and the things that like weren't up for debate?
Yeah, love it. The non-negotiable is anything that takes you away from your brand.
Yeah.
So like the best one to use is the supermarket, right? So we had Coles and Woolworths approach us in just after 2010 and say, you know, you build Australia's largest specialty coffee company. It's the most recognised. You know, you're motoring, your media's writing about you. We want you on our shelves. And I said, not negotiable. And they said, why are you being so arrogant? And I said, I'm not. To me, I'm building a specialised coffee brand.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? It specialises in cafe supply. So when people say, what's specialty coffee? To me, specialty coffee supply is manufacturing and supplying straight to cafes, not pick it up off a supermarket shelf.
Yeah.
So the biggest coffee company in Australia was Victoria Coffee, and they hated us. And they hated when I would say we're the biggest specialty coffee company because they say, what does that mean? And I'd say, well, 75% of your business is supermarket. I don't do supermarkets.
Yeah.
So we're different to you. You are the biggest manufacturer of coffee in Australia.
Yeah.
Own it. That's good. Be proud of it. Great family company. Beautiful.
Yeah.
We are the largest specialty coffee company, which means fresh manufacturer supply to cafes. That's what we specialize in. So we're a specialty retailer. I won't put my product on the supermarket shelf to destroy that brand. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You know, people turning up and making 3 mistakes is non-negotiable. Make your first mistake. I don't care. Make your second. We'll learn. We'll build the plan. Come and make the same mistake 3 times. Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because you haven't learned after the second time. We've got problems.
Yeah.
So the first time I never call it a mistake. I call it a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
The second time it's a mistake. So I'll let you get away with it. The third time it's a
habit.
It's a non-negotiable. So that's some of the things that helps explain to me what non-negotiables are. You know, people not treating customers well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to treat the customers well. Without a customer, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the customer's always right, but you can respectfully tell a customer to piss off. and I've done it many times, but respectfully.
Yeah.
Look, we've done everything we can to try and help you and accommodate your needs. Obviously, what you're expecting from us is something that we can't deliver.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Well, we've got to find a middle ground here. We've tried to do everything that you've asked for. We can't do any more. So you either stay with us or you choose to leave. Are you telling me to piss off? Well, if you think that's what we're saying, no, I don't want you to piss off, but we can't move anymore. So you either have to give or you have to move on.
Yeah.
Your choice. I'm putting the power back onto yours. That's a respectful way to tell someone to piss off.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like saying, I've done everything I can to accommodate you. Now you're expecting me to go outside my values or outside of our remit or whatever it is. Like we had a customer the other day, oh, your price rise is ridiculous. I said, have you followed the market share of coffee? I said, the market actually is $6 to $10 a kilo going up. We're $4 a kilo. We're under the market because of our buying power, because of our systems, because of our expectation of profits is lower than anybody else's because I can afford to. if you're not happy that we're putting a price up when we have to because we're not going to lose money with you, we don't have to make a lot of money, but we're not going to lose money, and we are under the market, then I suggest you look elsewhere. And that's not arrogance. That's just being brave and honest, because I'm not going to let the good customers pay for you.
Well, that's just aligning with your ICP.
Yeah,
isn't it?
correct. And I think what happens is a lot of people, they panic in business, and they go, I can't put my prices up. You can't run. You're not running a church. You're not running a charity. You know, you've got to pay your staff. You've got to pay yourself.
Yeah.
And if anyone doesn't want you to make profit, you know, cafes' profit last year, the IBIS report came out, 3%. The year before it was 5.5%. The average cafe last year made 3%. You get more than that by putting the money in the bank and not stressing.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, for a long time, people are going to understand, they think that the word profit is dirty. Everybody should be making a profit.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise, why should they risk? Well, why go into business? Why risk it? You know, a business owner never stops.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this that's a business owner will tell you. It doesn't matter how big or small the business is. It can be a business of one person.
Yeah.
Or it can be a business of thousands. The life of business owner, the thought process, the on button never turns off. No matter what they're doing, no matter how successful or non-successful they're. And it doesn't matter what part of the journey, whether it's at the start or at the end, they're still never switched off.
Yep.
Now, if you look at the per hour rate of what a business owner, especially in the cafe industry, it'd be criminal. It'd be slave labor. Because the average cafe owner right now the owner is lucky to be earning, say, $12 an hour. Yeah. If they're working in their business. A lot of them are losing money. Yeah. We would be put in jail if we put cafe workers on $12 an hour. Yeah. But yet the public think it's okay for the owner to be at that level. Yeah. You know, like what's the price? The average price of coffee in Australia last year was $6.50. What should it be? It should be $8.50. You know, if you look at the rest of the world, Europe, US, their wages are lower than Australia. Yet they're $8 to $10 a coffee. Yeah. You know, and so these are facts. I love data. I really love data, and I love analyzing data. Yeah. And then on the back of that, I love building strategy. Yeah. And so I say to people, we're not expensive. You know, interest rates, another one. Interest rates are not expensive. Yeah. It's just that everything else has gone up at the same time. You know, when I was a kid and interest rates were 17%, a loaf of bread was 20 cents. Petrol was 14 cents a litre. Yeah. Whereas we're now operating, the only reason why interest rates seem to be high and matter is because, one, housing prices are ridiculous. Yeah. Two, everything else has gone up. Everything's gone up. This is the first time I'm 50, right? And I've turned 50 and I go, shit, this is the first time that I can ever remember. Everything's gone up at the same time. Yeah. Every single thing, every product, every service, electricity, gas, insurance, school fees, you know, everything's gone up. There's not many items that haven't gone up, you know, all at the same time. And that's why interest rates then become, because it's your biggest expense. Now, for listeners that have got businesses will know this. For those that don't understand it, the biggest expense for most businesses is staff. Yeah. So no one's got a problem paying staff more money. But if we pay staff more money, the product and service has to be more expensive because that's the biggest component. So when people say in the cafe industry, I can make this at home for half the price. Yeah, you can, because 45% of that is staff wages. Yeah. So yeah, you can make it up. Yeah. You can make it half the price. Yeah. And people go, really? Is it 45%? I said, if they're lucky. Some are running at 50, 55%. Yeah. Where should they be? 30, 35. But they can't. Yeah. With wages so high, people go, why are my cafes closing on the weekend? Even if they charge you a penalty rate, they can't cover the time and a half wages. No. You know, why are people getting more digital and automated? Because they can't afford to deliver a $25 plate of breakfast if they've got 5 staff. Yeah. You know, and so what we do a lot at the Coffee Commune is education. Is, you know, that what I was saying before is that meaningful conversation, teaching the industry, talking to consumers and saying, hey, this is what happens. This is, you know, everyone likes to go to a cafe and restaurant, but why are you seeing them close? Why are they not operating on public holidays? You know, Easter used to be the busiest part for hospitality, now it's the quietest because I said to people close for 4 days. There's 2 major public holidays that you can't afford to open. Yeah. You'll never make that money. You'll lose. The money you make on the busy days, you'll burn it on the other days because of the cost. Yeah. You know, like, you know, it's sad, but that's what it is. It's the reality. It is the reality, right? And everyone loves going to cafes and restaurants and all the rest of it. We all do. We've got a great lifestyle in Australia. But we've also don't want business owners going broke. That's no good to anybody. Yeah. You know? So get out of that mentality that, you know, business owners, you know, the word profit is dirty because it's not. No. And of course, all owners want to pay their staff amazing. I want to pay my team what they deserve. I want to pay them above what they deserve. Yeah. But I can't pay them if I don't have the money coming in the door. Yeah. If the consumer's not willing to pay, how do I pay my team? Yeah. You know, so it's something for people to think about. And also those looking at going into business, What's the industry you're operating in? What's
Mm.
the opportunity? What are the red flags for your industry? What's the future of the industry look like?
Yeah.
We'll always have cafes and restaurants,
Yeah.
but they're going to be small. I've said it years ago. They'll be smaller formats. They'll be cheaper formats. They'll be more around value rather than quality. And surprise, surprise, Luckin Coffee in China, all automated, bigger than Starbucks.
Yeah.
Blank Street, which is going huge through the UK and New York. And I said this years ago when they opened, good coffee experience, but automated equipment, less staff,
Yeah.
no fancy fit outs.
Yeah.
So the product's not $8, it's $6.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for years, putting the futurist hat on. That's where we go. And I said years ago, bakeries are going to become popular because bakery, carbs, cheaper to produce. You're going to see chicken, turkey, all the white meats get more expensive, but still half the price of red meats.
Yeah.
Why? Because disposable income is down. So, where's the takeaway for the listeners here is be able to grab data, analyze that data, and then say, how do I build strategy in my business?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a service business or a product business. We're all operating in a world right now where disposable income is less. People have got less money to spend. And as they've got less money to spend, you've got to get more clever in attracting that money. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. So when people go, but the restaurants are still full. Yes, they are, but understand the data.
Yeah.
They're spending 30% less in the restaurant.
Yeah.
They're not drinking. It's shown the 20-year-olds aren't drinking as much.
Yeah.
Right? Wine sales down, drink sales down. One, they're expensive, but two, they're a healthier. It's a healthier generation, which is great, and they're drinking less.
Yeah.
Where did restaurants make their money in the alcohol?
Yeah.
So if you're not buying the alcohol, there's not a lot of money in food.
No.
So these are just things that I like to share because not just share the theory, but you share some concepts there, data analysis strategy, trends of what's going on and around. Just because you see a busy restaurant or cafe or bar doesn't mean they're making money, right? Because people are spending less money, but you still need the same amount of staff. You still need the same overheads to run it. What are the business of the future? Ones that have got less staff. The businesses that have less cost because they've got less people. So we're going to see more automation. We're going to see more. But one thing that automation and all the rest of it doesn't do is bring a heartbeat.
Yeah. It doesn't bring that emotional connection.
Emotional connection. There you go. And that's the secret ingredient.
Yeah.
So the businesses still want to, use your AIs, use your technology for efficiency.
Yeah.
Use it to scale because you get efficiency. But use it more importantly to free you up to emotionally engage more.
Yeah.
So that time that you get back because of technology, use it to emotionally engage with your people, with your customers, with yourself.
What's the biggest mistake that you see founders make?
They become arrogant and complacent. Arrogance and complacent. So arrogant normally breeds to ego.
Yeah.
They bring ego to the people. Say, oh, Phil's still got so much time. He's done well, and he's a captain of industry, and he's done. I'm always going to have time for people.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can be at my age, have accomplished what I have, but now give back to people. And that's why I chair boards and I, work with advisory groups like One Life Club and synergy boards and with business owners because I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love working with business owners. I love what you're doing, right? It's to me, that's amazing. I'm a first generation. My parents migrated here 60 odd years ago. My brother and sister were born in Italy. I'm the baby of the family. I was born in Australia. I'm first generation business owner. And of course my parents are very proud.
Yeah.
I've got an Italian knighthood. I was recognised because of my contribution to Italian community, Now, I'm proud that I've done all that. But I'm not arrogant and ego because now I want to take that and I want to help the next generation. I want to help others. How can I help you be the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
How can I help you become, the better tomorrow than what you were today? Because that's the impact I'll leave behind. That they'll forget Phil Di Bella, the person, but can they remember the impact? Can I remember, I've got people now say, I heard you speak 20 years ago and it changed my life. Or why? I was looking at starting my own business and I never did, but then I did. Or they'll go, you said to me 20 years, you were speaking in a group and said, get comfortable with your worst case scenario. And it changed my life. Or they'll say, hey, don't ever bet the house, have a lifeboat. And they'll go, I remember listening to you 15 years ago. Or someone the other day said, I went from 190 kilos. I used to be a photographer at the Courier Mail, and I used to take photos for the Courier Mail of you. Sometimes they'd send me. I went from 190. I've seen your weight journey in the last 5 years. I've gone from 190 to 112 kilos.
Yeah.
And I just go, wow, that's inspirational.
Yeah.
And it goes, and that's from watching your journey. So when I put something, it's not me being a show pony or being arrogant. Yeah, I'm proud.
Yeah.
But I'm going, how can this help somebody else?
Yeah.
What's the message in this? How does this leave a legacy behind to help somebody else?
Yeah. And sometimes we don't realize how we're positively affecting other people around us, even by just what we post on LinkedIn or, what we show the world of our lives. Like, I know I started posting things about me and my gym journey, and I had some girls message me and say, "Whoa, you're so inspiring!"
Yeah,
Like,
great.
now I've started to go to the gym,
Yeah.
or I haven't.
Isn't that
Girl,
great?
yeah,
Mm.
it's like it's really good. Yeah,
And of course, you get your haters too, but you know what?
you always get haters.
Fuck the haters. If we're
Yeah.
going to worry about what they're going to say, they're not your tribe anyway, right?
Yeah,
And they're not in your corner. And then normally I find they're the ones that have either never met you, or they're the ones that have got no inspiration.
yeah,
So it's far easier to drag somebody down
yeah,
than to lift yourself up and say, hey, you know what? I want to be that person, right? When I was overweight, I'd look at photos of guys and go, look, that guy looks amazing.
yeah,
And people are like, what? Yeah, look at him. Look, that guy's dedicated, disciplined, consistent. To have a body like that, that's what they're doing.
yeah,
Their discipline, their consistency. And they look at me and I go, yeah, and I'm not that right now, right? And until the switch flicks,
yeah,
then you go, get people now and go, oh, wow, look at you, look amazing. You know how much time it took? And I don't think I look amazing. I look okay. You know how much time that took?
yeah,
You know how much discipline it took?
yeah,
You know how much shit I ate, meaning how terrible I was. And I had to do the self-checking. No one's going to do the work for me, going, hey, I don't want to get on a plane and have to put an extension belt on anymore. I don't want to go shop in a special shop because, that normal clothes don't fit. More importantly, I don't want to leave this example for my kids,
yeah,
right? And touch wood, they're healthy, they're beautiful, they look great, they take pride in themselves.
yeah.
But I had to flick that switch 8 years ago. And it doesn't happen overnight. Remember we talked about the coming out of the ground?
Yeah.
Because now people go, oh, look at you got a six-pack and you got this. And I go,
Yeah.
that's 8 years in the making.
Yeah.
That's not.
They just see you in the good now and they think, oh, he's so lucky.
He's lucky.
It's not lucky.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Discipline, consistency, and time. You need resources. I couldn't do that when I was building a business. So, don't be hard, for the listeners, don't be too hard on yourself either.
Yeah.
If you've got a loved one that's sick, you've got pressure at work, you can't go and spend 2 hours a day in the gym.
No.
Be realistic. But you can still do 20 minutes. So you might not have the six-pack, but you can still be healthy.
Go for a walk.
Yeah, go for a walk or eat less,
Yeah.
or don't, like me, I eat more now than I used to, but I used to eat 10 o'clock at night and go to bed,
Yeah.
so I should change the way I ate. I could have had something small in the morning and something small at night, so there are always tweaks and things. If something's not working, there's something not working, and you need to identify what's not working.
Yeah.
It's cause and effect.
Yeah.
One of the three words I love now that I talk about is think, do, be. What you think, you will do, and what you do, you will become.
Yeah.
And that is, when you hear all these woo-woos about mindset and it's right. Whatever you think, you will do, and whatever you do, you will be. So if I come back to what I said before with the outcome, like now for me, I used to weigh 167 kilos. I'm now sitting on about 86, 87. For me, that's fine. If you said, oh, be really pedantic, okay, 85. So I set a target of 85 in December, to be in December 85. I'm thinking that. Now, the fact that I'm thinking I want to be 85 means what will I do? Well, last night I had pizza, but guess what? I had a third of the pizza, not the whole pizza.
Yeah.
Because why? I'm thinking about the 85. So I'm conscious because I've got an outcome. Now, you can do this with work, you can do this with family, you can do with it. The philosophy doesn't change. So I'm thinking about that because I've got a target. So what do I do in action? I ate a third of the pizza, not the whole pizza. What will happen, hopefully? What will I be? Come December, if I keep that process up, I will be 85 kilos. And that's what people don't understand. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You've got to think, you've got to do, and then you be.
Got to put that into action.
You do, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so you exited your business in 2017, you said?
Yep.
And by my research, it was 47 million.
So 47 I signed in 2014, 2015,
Yep.
and then it had an earn-out attached to it.
Yeah.
So the deal was actually bigger than that, but the reported value was 47, yep.
Okay, so you exited at 47 million, bit over that with, the years added onto that. How did you get to selling your business?
Yeah, that was the tricky part. So I had, obviously, once I made the decision consciously to sell, and this is what people don't do enough, if you need help, ask.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget, and the lovely lady's passed away now, unfortunately, with cancer, but a lovely lady by the name of Penny worked at BDO. And, luck is timing and opportunity. And I'll never forget, sitting at Youth Farm Park, my boy was playing soccer and she happened to be there, I think, to watch her grandchild play soccer, whatever it was. And she goes, how are you tracking? And she was the business development manager for BDO. And one of my best mates works there. He's now the managing partner. And I said, you know what? I'm struggling, Penny, and I think it might be time And she goes, well, you know that we can help you with that. And I said, you know what? Get somebody to give me a call. And she goes, well, no worries. Stevie Sorbello looks after this. And I said, Steve's one of my great mates. And she goes, well, we've known each other since we're 10 years old. And she goes, I'll get him to call you. So Steve rang me and we had a chat. And I suppose the lesson in it is lean in. If I hadn't had that chat with Penny that day and been vulnerable, might not have got to the sale. But then fast forward to Steve rings me BDO. He said, let's just slow this process. Let's look at why you want to sell. What do you want to do next? Who are you prepared to sell to? So the key there is work with people, and that's why I highly recommend BDO, and I've put on many people to them for sale because I went through it. I went through the process with them. They sat down and asked all the right questions. You're too young to retire. What does it look like afterwards? Because this all comes down to who you sell to, how are you going to put the deal together, who do you sell to? So went through this process and was right. This is my answer, this is my answer, this is my answer, this is my answer. Great. Based on that, right, let's have a look at who we could sell to. We had one option was to float the company, but that didn't match what I wanted to do. I would have got double the money. But I would have had to stay on for 5 years. I don't play nicely with boards and being told what I can and can't do. So no, that was off the table. Then the other option was a couple of other multinationals wanted it, but that would have been nearly as bad as, operating like you're in a public company. No. And then Retail Food Group came along. And at the time, they were a very good company, top 100 listed company with the right intention. They wanted to become fully integrated. We were going to be their first ever non-franchise acquisition. They wanted to build a complete integrated company with a coffee company, a tea company, a syrups company. The intention was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then that derailed later. But when we did the deal, it was the right company that aligned. They would look after the team. They wanted me to stay on for 2 years. I said no more than 3. I'd stay on to transition, to maximize what the business was doing. And also because it was a public company, you couldn't tell your team, right? Which is something the team later did not understand. Some still don't and don't like me. But the fact is when you're selling to a public company, you're not allowed to tell anybody, right? Because it affects the share price. Which I'll get back to because one of the hardest moments in my life was that. Yeah. But so I chose, we're going to do a deal with that Retail Food Group. We met with the CEO and the biggest shareholder as well. He aligned, we aligned. He made a massive offer, which we both looked at and went, the board's not going to approve this. That's how much he wanted the company. Anyway, we settled on the right number and the deal was done 13 weeks later. What are the key takeaways? Always be sale ready. I was not. So it took 3 months of getting back-end paperwork, documents. Imagine going from a startup to a big company, all the back-end crap that had to be fixed.
And
so
what does being sale ready actually
Well, make sure everything's registered properly, make sure your trademarks are registered, make sure you've got the right finances in place, make sure you've got the right registers in place, make sure you've got your current organisational structure, but your future organisational structure that you want to grow into. The systems process, but not for what you're operating today. No. For what you want to operate in the next 12 months to 3 years. Work with the right organisation.
Yeah.
I didn't use a business broker. I didn't need it. That saved me 2-3% of the sale price, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I worked with the right companies. I asked people around, right? And then the key is I knew what my non-negotiables were. I knew it wasn't about the number. Now, I've had friends that have sold to a public company and then regretted it because they get excited by the number and then it comes back to haunt them with what? Everything comes at a cost. No one's going to... I got a 12-time multiple, which is huge and a record in the country, right, for our industry. I could have got a 20-time multiple, but at what cost? What conditions did that come with? So be very clear about what your non-negotiables are in terms of after the sale. Don't get caught up in your number because the number comes at a cost. Yeah. Right? So then we went on to transition and then obviously the do's and the don'ts, the restraint of trades. Operating contracts. I had the properties, so they bought the business, not the properties. I had the supply company of green bean. They didn't buy that either, so I was supplying green bean. So it was a very big, lucrative deal, much bigger than what was reported because of everything that happened around it, which is the last lesson in learning is if you're working with the right people and professionals, you'll be able to milk the cow more. And BDO was able to milk the cow in a good way. Yeah. They were able to put the deal together a lot larger than what was reported because of all the different moving parts and because of their expertise. Yeah. So not only did they deliver an outcome for me that matched me personally, professionally, and from a family perspective, because my contract then said school hours only. I only worked school hours. I took 20 weeks a year off. It was the deal of a decade to align with everything that I wanted and needed. Yeah. And it only came about part luck, timing and opportunity. Yeah. But working with the right organisation being BDO, but me being in the right headspace and the right timing and doing it for the right reasons. Yeah. So I wasn't doing it to cash out. I was making plenty of money. I was doing it to get my personal life and family life in order.
Yeah.
So it was very clear. And then coming back to what I said, the hardest moment I've ever had to be in business, and I'll never forget it, was I wasn't allowed to tell anybody until 10:30. The only person that knew was my wife. Wasn't allowed to tell anybody until the market opened, right? So at 10 o'clock the market opened, 10:30 was when you could do your media releases. And at 10:30 we had everybody in the boardroom and everybody on Zoom around the country that were staff members. And they're like, what's going on? What's going on? No one knew. And we could only announce it at 10:30 on the dot that this is what's happened. And of course, some people did not take that very well. A lot of people didn't understand that it's a public company. It's not that I didn't want to tell you. I just couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Because you can't release that sensitive information. The same day, the market price went up 20%. So that's why you can't do it, right? Because people start buying shares, it goes up, dump shares, it's illegal trading.
Yeah.
So, the market went up 20% on that day when they announced the sale of Di Bella, that they were buying it. So sensitive market information, it comes with jail terms if you break protocols. That was the hardest time, right? But, there's a lot of lessons in that transaction, that were learnt. No regrets at all. Unfortunately, Retail Food Group, then, they're not operating to what the level they should be now and all the rest of it. But that wasn't in my hands. Like people go, did you get seller's remorse? No, I don't. I didn't own the company anymore. Yeah. I became a consultant for a couple of years and then I left and started the Coffee Commune to be back in the driver's seat doing something that has impact, that does amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Which we're very proud of. So it's Australian first concept, does amazing, helps, we've got 1,850 members, all part of it, 1,200 cafes. We've got 110 roasters working out of there. They told me that I wouldn't get 2 coffee roasters together to collaborate. Now I've got 110 working in one way, shape or form. So I like being told what not to do or that I can't.
Because you will do it.
Yeah, we just get on with it. I always look at people say, well, what's your model in business? What problem do you solve? What products and services make you more relevant than anybody else? And then how do I tell a more emotionally engaging story? And if I can do 1 and 2 and then nail 3, I'm going to build a great brand and I'm going to build a great business. Because to me, a great brand builds a great business and a great business builds a great brand.
Yeah. They definitely do come hand in hand.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you want to explain a little bit about what the Coffee Commune is?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so the Coffee Commune, first of its kind in Australia, it stemmed from all the problems that I had in 2002. So I didn't have access to capital, it didn't have the buying power, it didn't have knowledge, didn't have support, didn't have collaboration, everyone's secretive. And I went, well, if I start something new, I want to build a place where people come to collaborate. Yeah. What does it look like? Well, it looks like a community. So I started with the same model. What problem do we solve? We actually help you accelerate your potential. How do we do that? Through collaboration. So it's where the hospitality community comes to collaborate. What are we? We're a facility where you can come and manufacture 100 grams of coffee or thousands of kilos. So you can do it for corporate, you can do it for gifting, you can do it for your cafe group, you can do it for a small cafe, big cafe, small restaurant, massive restaurant. You can start your own coffee brand as a roaster. You can start it as a hobby, which we've done. If you break down, so if any of the big brands break down, and a lot have, they can come to us, you wouldn't even know. They don't lose out. But they can't go to the other competitors because they'll steal their customers. But they can come and manufacture their own coffee out of our facility. Nobody knows. It's all confidentiality signed, the whole lot. So we solve a lot of problems. We have a lot of relevance. We have small roasters to massive roasters. That's why it's a $20 million facility. We have training rooms. We have boardrooms, meeting rooms. Then we've got, on the other side, it's a community. So I was going to turn it into a chamber, but too many protocols, and I hate that. So we call it a community. There's 1,850 members, which is a lot. It's the biggest independent group in Australia that has no government funding. There you go, in hospitality. So, and it has a funder being me, which costs money. But anyway, a legacy product, right? Yeah. So if I give it to my CFO, he'll say, we're cutting it. No, it costs money, but that's the legacy part, right? Yeah. And it does great stuff. We run workshops. We have, networking events, which I call more collaboration events. We advocate a lot, so we're able to have a lot of power, especially with local government and state government. Not so much with federal government because they don't want to talk to business owners, unfortunately, the Labor government. So, and that's not me that's just, I've only ever had one Labor person come to visit me in 5 years. They've all been invited. I've had Jackie Lammy come, I've had Pauline Hanson, I've come all the independents, and of course the Liberal governments, is that because they're pro-business? Like our invitation's open to everybody, but they haven't turned up, right? Whereas at a local and state level, they have. On both sides. Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah. Not so much state, but local they have. Yeah. And we work with them to advocate. Why should we make these laws, change these laws? No, that's not a good idea. This is listen to the industry and what they have to say. We work with other industries. So we work with, with Wes out of Sydney with his group, the Australian Cafe Restaurant Association. We work with them. We work with Heidi's group with the Chamber of Commerce in Queensland. We work with other associations and groups. To me, I don't care. It's not about the membership fee. Be a member of theirs, we'll give you a free membership. Yeah. It's how can we all get together to collaborate to help people, business owners, micro, small, medium businesses become better. And I mean, the state government's been very proactive. I sit on a couple of boards for free. When I say government boards, I don't get paid. I do because it convolutes things. So I sit on a couple of advisory boards, round tables. It's state government. They're very proactive in micro, small, medium business. The minister's very active. The premier is very pro-business and wants business owners. And they use a lot of industry people to help. Yeah. So that's what the commune does. Yeah. It brings, it facilitates. It's a voice for the industry. Radio will reach out all the time. Media will reach out and say, hey, can you tell us what's going on? What do you think it's happening here? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's not right? What are consumers doing? What are they not doing? What should they be aware of? So it's a bit of that everything. It's about, I've been in hospitality 36 years. Yep. Used to wash dishes for my brother's pizza shop. There you go. So I've been around it for a long time, seen a lot of the transition. And for me, it's having that impact to say, well, hey, I want to see a thriving hospitality industry. Yeah. Understanding that disposable income's down at the moment, so it's a bit tougher, but I still want to see a thriving industry. I want to see a thriving, city, a thriving state, a thriving country. What can I do to be part of that? What can I do to, I'm fortunate enough to have had my success and go, how do I now help? And I don't want to say help because I'm not a savior, but how can I help them accelerate potential? Yeah. Be sustainable, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So that drives me.
Yeah, I love that a lot. Okay, awesome. So we're coming to the end of the podcast now. Now, this is what we ask all of our guests, but what's the one piece of advice that you would give to other founders or, people that want to get into business, whether that's to sell their business or anything? What's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Keep your fingers on your pulse. Yeah, keep your fingers. Don't race too fast and don't go too slow. Yeah. If you're going too slow, you're not going to be around, and if you're going too fast, you're certainly not going to be around. So it's find that equilibrium. So know where your pulse is, know what it's beating, know what your max and that. And if you extrapolate that out to business, know where you're heading, know what your why is, know what your purpose is, know what your parameters are. So when I say keep your fingers on your pulse, you've got to know where your pulse is, and you've got to know what the bandwidth of your pulse is. Yeah. When is it too slow? When is it too fast? Bring that out in business terms. Know what your purpose is, know what you're turning up for personally, professionally, and family, and then know what your negotiables and non-negotiables are. Because not everything can be a non-negotiable. There's certain things, sometimes you're the pigeon, sometimes you're the statue. So sometimes you're in control, sometimes you've got to let somebody else be in control. Yeah. But you work out what those non-negotiables are and negotiables. And then remember this, we come alone, we die alone. Now it sounds morbid, but we become people pleasers a lot of the time. We try and take people on a journey. We can have an impact, but the only person we can ever control is us. Yeah. We can't control anyone else. I can't control your pulse. I can influence your pulse. Yeah. I can calm you down or race you up, but I can't control your pulse. Only you can control. And I think that's something that, so that analogy of keep your fingers on the pulse is pretty deep. Don't let anyone else control your pulse. Yeah. So, know where your pulse is, know what the parameters are. Don't let anyone else control it. You control it. They'll influence it. We'll blow a few blood vessels sometimes, especially being Sicilian, right? You're Scottish, you've got a bad temper as well. So, but again, it's only me. How high will that pulse get? It's up to me.
It's up to you.
Yeah. So it really is something, because that self-regulation is one of the things that I find is so important. Is, you go when you need to go, slow when you need to slow, be patient when you need to be patient, be kind when you need to be kind, rip a new one into somebody when you need to. Do you know what I mean? Just that, and that's all that self-regulation is really, and it all comes back to keeping your fingers on your pulse.
Yeah. Cool. Now, where can the people that are listening find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is always good. Yep. So LinkedIn, Facebook, LinkedIn, I do a lot of the professional stuff. I put stuff up all the time. LinkedIn, Instagram is just closed. Yeah. people, I use that for different. But yeah, no, LinkedIn is definitely, or on Facebook. I used to have a podcast. It's still up. No, I haven't recorded anything for a long time. Flashcast by PDB.
Yep.
They're all 10-minute segments. It was sat in the top 10 in Australia for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's still left there because a lot of it's still relevant.
Yeah.
And it talks about real life answers to questions that people would send in, and they're only 10 minutes,
Yeah.
short, sharp. So that's another way that people can find out. Our been there, done that, especially for people in hospitality but there's a lot of life lessons on there too. So been there, done that podcast is got a great following and pretty active that we still do now.
Yeah.
So yeah, myriad of ways. But
Yeah.
of course, they can listen to your great podcast.
Yeah. We'll link all of Philip's, socials down below. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed so we can continue giving these amazing conversations with such amazing guests. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, and good luck with it all.
Thank you so much for coming on. We
Awesome.
really appreciate it.
No, awesome.
Yeah.
Love what you're doing.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.